Between 1980 and 1984, a predator moved through Florida in two distinct phases, first as a serial rapist, then as a serial killer. His name was Robert Joseph Long. Born on October 14, 1953, in Canova, West Virginia, he would eventually be known across the Tampa Bay area by a chilling nickname, the Classified Ad Rapist. The nickname came from his method. Between 1981 and 1984, Long committed dozens of rapes, targeting women through classified advertisements. He would respond to ads placed by women selling household items that suggested they might be home alone. Some estimates put the number of women he raped as high as 50. Operating across Miami, Ocala, Fort Lauderdale, and the Dade County areas between 1980 and 1983, he left a trail of terrorized victims and few leads. For years, these attacks were investigated separately, the pattern hidden in plain sight within the pages of the newspaper. Then, in 1984, the violence escalated into murder. Long's killing spree spanned roughly 8 months, from March 27th to November 12th, 1984. His first known murder victim was 20-year-old Artis Wick, killed on March 27, 1984. Over the following weeks and months, more women disappeared and were found dead across the region. On May 13, 1984, the body of 19-year-old Nguyen Thi Long, known as Lana, was discovered. Among the victims was Michelle Denise Sims, a name that would later carry particular legal weight. As bodies surfaced, investigators began to see the connections between them. The most crucial forensic thread was literal, red carpet fibers. These fibers were found on the bodies of several victims, physical evidence that tied the killings to a single source and, ultimately, to a single vehicle and a single man. But in the fall of 1984, the case had not yet closed. The killer was still active, and what finally broke the case open was not a body, it was a survivor. On November 3, 1984, 17-year-old Lisa McVey was riding her bicycle home from work when she was abducted. What followed was an ordeal that lasted 26 hours. But McVey did something extraordinary. Rather than surrender to panic, she paid attention. She gathered details, information about her captor's home, his car, and even a specific time period during which she heard him use an aide. She engaged with him, and she survived. After 26 hours, Long released her. That decision, to let her live, would prove to be his undoing. Lisa McVey walked out of that ordeal and handed investigators a roadmap. The details she provided about the home, the vehicle, and the ATM timing gave police concrete, checkable leads. Combined with the mounting forensic evidence, the investigation closed in. On November 16, 1984, Robert Joseph Long was arrested. The red carpet fibers found on several victims' bodies linked him forensically to the murders. Under questioning, Long confessed to 8 murders committed over the 8-month span of 1984. The classified ad rapist and the Tampa Bay killer were the same man. The legal reckoning came in stages. On September 24, 1985, Long pleaded guilty to 8 homicides and multiple counts of sexual assault. For those crimes, he received 26 life sentences without the possibility of parole. His full record of convictions was staggering. First-degree murder on 8 counts, armed burglary, aggravated assault, 11 counts of kidnapping, 2 counts of robbery, and 10 counts of sexual battery. Then, in 1986, Long was sentenced to death specifically for the murder of Michelle Denise Sims. He was found guilty. The conviction and the death sentence were not in doubt. What followed were decades of appeals, but the courts consistently upheld Long's convictions and sentences. According to Factual America, his final appeal was denied in 2018. The Death Penalty Information Center confirmed that Florida moved toward execution after the U.S. Supreme Court, on May 23, 2019, declined to review his case. His conviction was never vacated, never reversed, never overturned. On May 23, 2019, at Florida State Prison, Robert Joseph Long was executed by lethal injection. He was pronounced dead at 6:55 p.m. CNN described him as a convicted serial killer and rapist who had been convicted in the killings of 8 women that terrorized the Tampa Bay area in 1984, and who had received a death sentence for the murder of Michelle Sims. And in the front row of the witness room that evening sat Lisa McVey, the teenager who had memorized her captor's home, his car, and the timing of an ATM visit. The survivor whose observations helped end the spree was there to see the case reach its final conclusion. Once a 17-year-old abducted on her way home from work, she had gone on to build a life in law enforcement herself. Her decision to observe rather than freeze, to remember rather than merely endure, remains one of the most consequential acts of any survivor in a case of this scale. The story of the classified ad rapist is, in part, a story about how easily a pattern can hide. For years, Long's attacks were treated as separate incidents, scattered across jurisdictions, and buried in the routine transactions of the newspaper classifieds. It took the escalation to murder, the persistence of forensic science, and above all the courage and clarity of a single survivor to bring the pieces together. 8 women lost their lives in 1984 alone. Artis Wick, Njun T. Long, Michelle Denise Sims, and the others whose names deserve to be remembered as more than entries in a case file. Their deaths, and the dozens of assaults that preceded them, marked one of the darkest chapters in Florida's criminal history. The conviction stood. Justice, delayed by decades of appeals, was ultimately carried out.